I'm Adam Ghost from the Ghost Dice blog. This is the first video in an ongoing battle report series I'll be running from the Dallas, Texas WarBoys Warmachine Club. Today we focus on the Gaspy3 list with Cryx. Hope you enjoy and thanks for watching. I don't have any kind of an actual introduction, so screw it. I'm Adam and this is Cryx.
Hi.
And we're going to be talking about your lists here. So we played a game. We did Asphyxious versus Goreshade3. Asphyxious 3 and Goreshade 3. It was my first time playing Cryx. You've played Cryx quite a bit. I'm usually a red player.
Yeah,
And
I've
I
been
really
playing
didn't know
Cryx
what's going
since I
on.
started.
Yeah. So I didn't know too much what was going on, but I wanted to give it a try and learn quite a bit. But I think you've got the more interesting list out of the two of us. Definitely the more, I
It's
guess.
definitely not standard, I think. It's a pretty wholesale ripoff of Jeremy Lee's list, but I really like it. It just floods the table with a bunch of really like low point cost, high model count units. And together with Asphyxious 3, you can kind of just push your way up the table with Scything Touch and Carnage support, and it's really effective against certain things that Cryx doesn't want to see right now, which is evolutionary elementalism. I think is the word for that.
Calandra's tier, basically.
Yeah, the Calandra tier. As well as a lot of just general troll lists. This is really good against them. The Blood Gorgers are by far the standout on this right here, and I think a lot of players don't take them because they are so expensive monetarily. With
In
each
terms of
unit,
like actually buying the physical
yeah,
models.
yeah, literally, like, dollars. They are expensive to get. And I mean, to be honest with you, the only reason I have them is because of deals that I've worked out. But all that said, they are actually a really great value for an 8-point unit for 10 models. You get 12-15, you get tough. If you're planning on dropping it into a Hordes list, which you should be because this is Lich 3 and that's kind of what he does, you get the advantage of basically having your speed 10 for your charges. So you have a 10.5-inch threat range with the Blood Gorgers. Together with Carnage and their own gang and Scything Touch on the unit itself, they can toss out 2 attacks each at MAT 10, PS 15, and they will absolutely wreck things. It will surprise you just how good they will destroy things. Um,
Especially
the
since a lot of the hordes beasts,
Yeah,
Circle or Legion or even some of the Troll Lights, they're not necessarily all that tough. Well, Troll Lights get tougher
yeah,
than
troll
you'd
lights can
expect.
get tough. So
But
but really this is targeted at Circle and Legion. And then also it, as a side benefit, it also basically solves EE, the Calandra tier. Saxon Auric is in there for obvious reasons. There's a bunch of stuff in there that does not have Pathfinder.
just make sure you can get there in case there's a forest or
Right,
whatever.
yeah, because the Blood Gorgers will get slowed down tremendously by forests. Dara Wraith is in there for the same exact reason as you would expect. He's in there to just camp as hard as humanly possible with Asphyxious on your big feet turn. The Blood Witches and the Ghost Raiders together is what makes those work. I think because the Blood Witches are great. Don't get me wrong, but I think together with the Ghost Raiders, it puts a large amount of incorporeal skew out on the table. So you have Ashen Veil on your Raiders. That gets them up to, Def 16, 18 maybe, depending on what your opponent's abilities have. And then you have 2 units of extremely fast, incorporeal for the turn that it matters units as well. And usually I'll run those on like one flank each.
Yeah, Ashen Veil in particular on the Raiders is pretty nasty considering they're already immune to blast damage. They've got Force Bear as long as they've got that UA up. So getting up to Def 18, against something like Ravagore, I mean he can set him on fire, but then they've got a 1 in 3 chance of not taking any kind of damage from it.
Right.
So I've played against that a couple times, and it's always really interesting. It's a fun first turn problem to give your opponent because they ignore the rest. I've always had to ignore the rest of the army and say I've got those guys, and I got to clear them out so I can get to the rest of the game.
Right, and I really do think that in a lot of ways, making sure that you don't throw the raiders away is actually that's the crux of playing them correctly. Is that you want to get them far enough up there to threaten things, but you don't want to put them so far forward that your opponent's like, well, okay, I guess I'll just kill these guys and not do anything else for the rest of the turn. If you don't have anything to back up that threat, then you just kind of throw them away, and that's what a lot of players end up doing, whether on purpose or not. So yeah, like you want to gauge those threats. You want to abuse the fact that you have a 12-inch threat range,
which is huge for Cryx.
that is a huge threat range actually, and you can get 14 with the solo, but the points are so tight in this list. The 4 points of Dara Wraith used to be 2 different 2-point solos, and I think Dara is better in this instance, but I'm not 100% sold on that.
Have you changed this list since we played this game?
Current thoughts on changing the list is dropping the Ghost Raiders.
Really?
For 2 units of Necrosurgeons and a min unit of Mechanothralls. And then a 2-point solo to get the Raiders back up to threat 14. The main reason why is because there is such a huge number of living bodies in here, it almost seems like a crime to not reuse those corpses.
That's actually a fair point. So you've mentioned that you've mostly played this into Hordes matchups, but this time you're going to play it into a Cryx mirror match versus a Goreshade3 list.
Right.
So we're going to be switching over to that, but in general, when you think about playing this into Cryx, do you think it's mostly a good Cryx drop?
It's not really a good Cryx drop. It's actually kind of painfully awful for most Cryx armies. If you happen to run into a Denny 2 player that's still lurking around after the great nerfing, that's really bad for that. The classic Gaspy3 list is going to just wreck house on the Lich 3 list. It's just not good.
Get one good purge on the Raiders and they're all gone.
Yeah, all you need is one good purge, and it's super bad.
Okay.
And that's not even counting like the classic Denny 1. I think Lich has a pretty good stand-up fight against a Scar 1 list. It's probably 55-45 Scar 1. But yeah, the classic things that Cryx usually takes is going to kind of walk all over that list.
Luckily for you, I wasn't playing classic Cryx. I was doing this weird Scar 3 kind of list. I think I've got some stuff in here that's fairly normal. Or sorry, Goreshade.
It's not Scar 3.
Yeah. Sorry.
That's coming up. We'll get that one soon.
She might be dead. Who knows? So anyways, I got this Goreshade3 list here. We've got the Kraken, Scarlet Thrall, Bane Riders. Got the Min Mechanothralls with 2 Necrosurgeons, Blood Witches with UA, Derg Wraith, and then the War Witch side and Saxon Orc. I was a little bit limited in some of the models that I wanted to take just because I didn't have a lot, or I was borrowing some, and just kind of playing around with it. And I wasn't certain if I wanted to play more for like an attrition stylist or an assassination stylist. I tend to favor assassination, and this one kind of.
You are a ret player.
I am. I really am. Playing the Retribution Cryx caster in Goreshade. So going into this was kind of interesting for me because I wasn't sure what to do at first. So I went with this, and I don't... There's like 30 points I'd switch out just by looking at this. I would switch out the Kraken for sure, and the Bane Riders, for what I personally would want.
Right.
I've played another game since where I did that, and I had more. I had the Raiders, and I had some more jamming stuff in there. And I just had like one of the cheap arc nodes, and that was it. And that I felt like worked better.
Right.
The list itself I thought was pretty interesting. Just in some of the options it had, and in what I wanted to start out doing with it. But I just wasn't quite sold on some of it, and I don't know. The Kraken, we'll see. Anyway, we can hop into the game here. This is obviously Destruction. We've only got a few pieces of terrain here, and we roll to go first, and you win the roll to go first and decided that you want to go first, presumably so you could just jam up in there, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, any kind of dude spam Cryx list always wants to go first. You never want to not go first because you want to get up and take the initiative and take the board position.
Yeah, which you did fairly well. So my big problem or question over here on my end was, do I want to, uh, you know, stick you at the side of the river or not? And then I remember, oh, we both have Saxon, doesn't matter. So I eventually picked the side that I was on already. I wanted a hill, but we both had hills and the forest. So you got
The
deployment out. Sorry, go ahead.
the hill for the Kraken is actually super important because it means that you can basically see whatever the hell you want to.
Yeah. So that's exactly what I wanted, but I figured we both had two of them, so it wouldn't matter. So I tried to get the one that would. I don't remember, but I like that one.
So here, I moved up. I think I probably overstepped my bounds just a little bit. At that little pause right there was actually you saying, like, "Are you sure you want to do that?" If I remember correctly, I was basically of the mind that if you did kill it, I'd be able to threaten your Kraken in return with enough stuff that, like, I felt confident about if you came up and killed Cankerworm, that it would be fine.
Yeah, I remember Kinkworm getting up and they was kind of puzzling for me, but then I looked at it and thought, I don't know if I really want to get him that close. And if I do, I don't know that the Kraken's gonna be able to actually kill it or do enough in some of the melee. Because
The
he's
Kraken could probably one round it, but you'd have to spend all three focus, and you might have to get lucky on a couple of your hits.
yeah, because he's pretty high defense, and I could get the Kraken up to mat 8, but
Yep.
it'd still be kind of nerve wracking. Anyway, so you run up and jam forward, like
Yeah,
a Cryx looks
basically
like to
just
do.
absolutely just move as far forward as possible.
Yeah.
I put Ashen Veil out on Gaspy3 because I was concerned about him getting shot, um, and the witches and the raiders over on the other side are intended to threaten your cavalry.
Yeah, which I didn't like at all. Then you see me, which was switching over to my turn. I get the Kraken forward, and he tries to make a couple attacks on Dara Wraith. I've played against him enough that I know I hate that guy. So I
Dara
figure,
Wraith actually in this matchup is a lot less important, which was why I was a lot more cavalier about him because you don't have any living models really except for the Blood Witches. So
yeah, I just hate him.
yeah, no, he's awful.
I hate that guy so much.
He's bonkers good.
Yeah. So I take some shots, and I don't even unhorse him, which is kind of disappointing with the three focus on the Kraken.
Yeah, because
Um,
you did a full boosted unicorn shot and then took whatever else you had on him as well too, right? The DACA
Something
gun.
like that. Yeah, yeah. It didn't do that much. And then I positioned the cavalry there so that you'd get charges on two of them. But I figured you'd get charges on two of them, and I have three behind. They could do some impact attacks and try to really get in the face of whatever killed those two, and then I could mockery back those two cavalry units.
Absolutely, that
Mockery
is.
life is bringing the one that brings them back to life.
Yep,
So,
with one box, you only get a movement. You don't get an attack.
but I'd have them for future rounds. I figured that'll be fine. And the rest of the stuff just kind of moves forward. I use the Necrosurgeons and Mockery to make my Min Macthrall unit into 9-man.
You may want to pause it here in a second.
Okay. So I got the Mechanthralls up there so that I'd have more bodies to throw at you pretty quickly.
Oh, absolutely. So right now, we are going through the motions of what is exactly expected. The the ghosts are coming up to threaten the only thing with magic weapons in the army, which may have been like a poor choice for me, looking back at it on the matchup, but actually ended up turning out pretty okay. Um, I allocated one to Cankerworm because the idea was that he was going to scoot forward, do a bite, and then scuttle away, or just make himself obnoxious in some form or fashion. The cavalry, of course, are getting charged by as many of the witches, or I'm sorry, the raiders, as I can get on there. They are notably spreading really far apart because I don't want him to be able to get any more than the 2 or 3 that I think it's going to take to kill his 2 cavalry in return.
Yeah, you put him way far back, which is kind of disappointing for my end. I was like, I wanted to kill those guys, but I couldn't. And the rest of your stuff just kind of follows it behind.
Yep.
Um,
The biggest issue with the list is that you have so many fast things. You have to really gauge how quickly you're willing to put the fast stuff out in front of everything else, because those blood gorgers, if all they're doing is running, they will fall behind. They get real slow real quick.
mhm. I did find it was interesting that you managed to jam up my other cavalry with your the Blood Witch coming up from behind. So I'm
Right.
moving past the Raiders to get up in there. So you're
Yep.
able to jam up and protect the stuff that you found to be like more important. While you've got Derek going up there, and he's like, I'm just gonna walk up here and be obnoxious against
And
these
just go
these
be
girls.
obnoxious. So
Yeah.
right here, Gaspy's taking the hill under Ashen Veil with his focus and the feet. Basically, this is me pushing my chips to the middle of the table and saying, like, I bet you can't kill me this turn.
And this is where I'm gonna say I could do that because
I
I'm
got that.
used to always being able to do that. Uh, and then you got the gorges around there,
Yeah, just
which
a
is
further,
interesting to have so
like,
many medium
annoy.
based models just to just kind of hover around them.
So that's something that's actually really interesting about the list too, specifically for Lich 3, is that he really likes having medium bases to hang out behind. Because he doesn't like people shooting him, especially things like Iris or things like
Yeah,
the Siphon Bolt that's about to happen.
yeah, I do think a couple on there. I kind of pause on this one because I'm trying to figure out the best way to do this. Again, I haven't played this guy before, so I know I can use the feat and mockery to get some mechanic thralls in the right spot. Uh, so I can make your caster stationary, and I figure once your caster's stationary, I'll shoot him with a couple of guns from the Kraken, and I'll be able to kill him. So I'm trying to figure out the best way to do that, primarily using the mechanic rolls.
And this part right here is where he's measuring, and I'm going, "Oh shit! I just messed up my placement on some of these Blood Gorgers. This is really bad."
Yeah. So they do get up there. I got a couple charges off, but I feel like the charges didn't matter as much since
No,
I'm
they
planning on
they didn't
shooting.
matter at all. It
Yeah.
was, I mean, like if you kill the Blood Gorgers, whatever, they're there to
Yeah.
die anyway.
But this is kind of the interesting part that Goreshade himself can do, where he gets some Mechanthrals up there, and then on his turn he moves up, uses good just in Siphon Bolt range,
Yep.
uses Mockery to bring the guy back, uses a feat to remove that guy from play,
Yep.
and make everything stationary.
Show does.
Looking back on this, I think that if I had potentially used some more of those Mechanthrals to kill my own objective, and then feat and just to remove all of the models that were in the way, I could have gotten the Kraken to charge.
Yes. So one of the hardest things, and also you have to consider the fact that whenever you're playing Shade, you really have to consider sometimes you feat for control, and you blow up a whole bunch of stuff and destroy or freeze the whole front line of an infantry army, and then you're like, "Yep, okay, I'm going to make you wait a turn."
Yeah. But I didn't do that. Instead, I guess I'm gonna just get you. I get a couple attacks from Siphon Bolts to pull some focus off of your caster. I got a free one because
Right?
I think you had cast a spell from Derek. And
Yeah,
then,
Dara cast a spell,
yeah,
which was a misplay on my part. I completely
yeah.
forgot about it.
So I get in there, cast a couple spells. My Derek comes up there and also casts a spell. Saxon takes a shot, and then my Kraken shoots. And end of the story is I don't do enough damage. You're sitting on at least several boxes. You've got plenty of focus there,
Yeah,
and
after all was said and done with the feat, I think I was still sitting at 10 plus boxes and like 7 or 8 souls.
yeah.
So I was gonna have a really big turn next turn.
Yeah, and then immediately after that, going super fast is just a bunch of non-consequential stuff
Yeah,
happening.
it's a bunch of stuff that I really shouldn't have even bothered moving.
Well, it was
I
all
was
my
just
stuff. I was like, I'm gonna come up here and I'm gonna kill these guys because I'm dead anyway. I figured I'm sitting there on no camp, and I'm like, I've got Mechanithrall screening for me. That's gonna be enough, right?
no.
So I
Yeah,
paused.
so basically this is me clearing out the objective and like 2 Mechanithralls so that Lich can get up there and seal the deal by himself.
I don't. I think you also even used Cankerworm to get up in there and do some damage to him with an armor-piercing attack.
Yeah, I want to say he armor pierced as well and
Yeah.
didn't quite seal the deal all by himself.
It was just kind of a I don't remember. I just like remember seeing the damage that I did was just not enough, and even healed some of it. And I was like, this is terrible. I hate this guy. I hate this list. Which isn't the case. Like it's not a terrible
Actually,
list.
this is a pretty standard Goreshade 3 list. The other version uses double cav instead of the Mechanithrall boat.
Oh, the Soul Hunters, yeah.
Yeah,
And so the Soul Hunters are kind of interesting there too. Um, and kind of ended really quickly. Let me pull it back up.
yeah, it was very abrupt.
Whoops. Um, but Yeah, the Soul Hunters I think would make it much more interesting. Um, there it is. But like there towards the end, you get your caster in there, and he's able to use the 37,000 focus he has and kill. Because he
It
got
was
like he,
probably only 20 focus, but you know.
but I mean he did get because I had 4 focus left on Goreshade. He cast 1 spell for free, for Mockery, and
Yep,
then I spent 2 and boosted damage. Got 1 focus back from you.
yep. Yeah,
Spent
because you took me from, I want to say I had 5 focus at the end of my turn. You took me down to 2, I believe.
That's something like that. It was really kind of fun to just, it reminds me of Kalis's gun because it's the
Yeah, yeah,
same kind
she
of
has
ability.
basically the same rule.
But
It's just not a gun, right?
I like it a lot better because it's a spell and you can get a free spell and stuff like that. So I thought it
Right.
was kind of interesting to do that, just to really remove that focus. But one of the problems was that every time I was doing damage, I was spending focus to do it, and so you kept
Yeah.
regenerating under
Yep.
that feat.
Yeah,
So
because Gaspy with a 15-17 base is really solid. He's really hard to kill. Um, the whole thing is that you have to do, if you're going to go in on an assassination run when he's on his feet, you really want to have your first attacks be the small stuff that you need to get out of the way to do some kind of status effect or whatever. Because if he's already full health, he's not gonna whatever. Um, what you really want to seal the deal is just like overwhelming power, and you want to boost those damage rolls every time.
yeah, and I was able to boost some of the damage rolls, but the Kraken, I think I even rolled like 1 or on the spiker gun. Not
Yeah, the
spiker.
spiker gun did not do well.
Yeah, I rolled abysmally low, and it just wasn't enough. The Lich plan to just come up and sit up there and say, "Hey, I'm here. Come after me," was really kind of interesting because I also think that if I had activated, even get the Ganith thralls like up like I had, but place them differently and then feed it on the Blood Gorgers so they can't move, and some of the Black Banes, kill Blackbane himself so that you don't get that recursion.
Absolutely.
Even if it caused had to come from the Kraken gun, I think that would have had quite a few, because the Kraken gun's magical, isn't it?
No.
It's not.
Oh, my friend, no. This
Never
is this
mind.
is Cryx. We don't have magic guns. We
Never
don't. We
mind.
barely have guns.
This is
Um,
true.
So the thoughts that I had on that is that I like the more I look at it now, like looking at the game state right there, you probably still could have put Lich in the dirt, and it was something that I was kind of curious about at the time. Is that all you had to do was literally just clear out enough stuff to deliver that Kraken. The Kraken could have done it in like 2 hits after you siphon bolted me. Um,
And one
I
thing that was kind of the problem on either end was you had guys in the way. I didn't have guns to get rid of them, so I would have had to get stuff in there to get rid of them. But after rereading the feat afterwards, I realized you can just remove as many models as you want from the table.
oh yeah, no, you
Like, you
can
don't
just
have to. There's no limit. You can be like, this entire unit, you guys are gone.
yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
so I could have, gotten more of those Mechanthrals up there, do a couple combo strikes on the objective, and on the other Blood Gorgers, and then the Kraken's able to charge.
Right.
I don't think
Yeah,
he would
because
have been able to walk. No, he wouldn't be able to walk. You'd be too far away for that, I think.
no, you would even with speeds. Well, no, he is speed
Actually,
7.
speed 7. So yeah,
Yeah.
that's 11-inch threat range. You
Yeah, no,
might
I
be
was
able
running the
to.
numbers on it later. I remember saying like remarking after you took your turn, I was like, dude, all you had to do was deliver that Kraken. Like that
Yeah,
is all that needed to happen. That Kraken would have just toasted me.
yeah.
Especially after pulling all the focus off that you did.
Because you were down fairly low, but again, regenerating made it harder. I also think that one of the interesting parts about Gaspy3 in particular is that you can kind of run a gunline assassination list for him like that. If you bring in Nis and the Devil's Shadow, a couple of the other guns, even the
You
oh
mean
jeez,
Goreshade 3?
what did I say?
You said Gaspy 3.
Yeah, Goreshade 3.
Okay.
Got it. is but yeah, I do think it's kind of interesting how you can do kind of those things.
Yeah,
And then use the other.
because just in case the folks at home didn't know, you can use his feat on friendly models. It does not require faction. And they are not RFP'd, they are just destroyed. So if you do have something that can collect corpses from friendly units, you can also just get corpses from your own feat fodder.
So getting his
Just,
hunters up there with necrosurgeons behind, feet on them after they get some charge attacks,
yep,
and then
freeze the front line. You get to take the front line of your opponent. You sacrifice a few models to do it, and then you get to take another turn after that. Especially if it's infantry heavy.
Yes. It is only AoE 3, which can be a little bit short range for some of those kinds of things. I mean, that's a little bit more than melee range, like half-inch melee range, I think.
Yeah, it's like 3/4 of an inch, I think, for a small base model.
So it's not a huge amount of space. So if your opponent's able to space things out really well, you're gonna have to lose a lot of models before you can do that. But again, it gets you a really kind of a free turn. I do think it's kind of interesting that we both have very jam-heavy lists here, and it came down to assassination on top of two or bottom of two.
Yeah, this was a very quick game. And like I said, the Lich plan was basically it went off without a hitch. It did exactly what it was supposed to do. Move up to the middle, basically force your hand to either try and attrition the army or just like try and kill Lich. If either fails, then hopefully win. And you gave me a much bigger turn than you probably should have. I think that was one of the other options that you had on my turn when I moved up and defeated, is that you just freeze my front line, cast no spells, call it a day. Kraken moves up, kills like 2 things, gets some corpses, sure, whatever. And that's pretty much that's what you do that turn.
Yeah, that probably would have been better. But the Gaspy list, the Asphyxious list, I think is just really kind of interesting in how jammy it is with the tanky caster without some of the bells and whistles or some of the tricks I think a lot of Cryx players are used to. Like you're not gonna get like the excarnated bile purges on half an army, but with the blood gorgers jamming in there and doing a surprising amount of work after everything else has gone in.
Right. So, and like one of the biggest questions that always gets raised is that why would you play Gaspy3 if you can play Scar 1? And that's a really good question because this list, in almost every way, is probably better with Scar 1, but I don't, as a general rule, I don't like how random Scar 1 can be. Your entire tournament run for the day can be ruined by rolling a 2 on a critical turn for your ritual sacrifice. I like the controllability of Lich 3 way more. I like how his feat like personally empowers the warcaster rather than the army. And it's just I think that's just like that's what I like personally. This list is almost, like I said, almost certainly better as the like change out Lich 3, Cankerworm, and whatever else needs to be switched out to put in Scar 1, a Scarlock, her support staff, and 2 Helldivers. But I just don't really like the randomness of Scar 1. The Vociferon, using him to collect souls, is actually a really interesting mechanic, and it's actually prepared me really well for having Soul Trappers. He's a lot thicker and harder to kill than Soul Trappers, but the general idea stays the same.
Those poor Soul Trappers are just so squishy.
Oh my god, they have the definition of victim stats. 1 box, Def 12, Arm 11. They are awful. But given enough screening models, they can be surprisingly hard to pick out. Frequently, if your opponent doesn't have just an overwhelming amount of guns, so if they're not playing like certain flavors of Ret and or Signar, then you can frequently get souls on those guys without any issues.
Yeah. Do you think I'll add them to this Asphyxious list?
If I play, so I had some thoughts about playing. There's a the theme list for Asphyxious 3 gives you extra souls and corpse tokens for each unit that you have in the army. With the release of the Sepulcher, I think that there's actually like a really good chance that I may try and run that theme with either 1 or maybe even 2 Sepulchers and just fill out the rest with Mechanothralls and I believe he still gets Wither Shadow in the list. You have to take at least 1 Pistol Wraith, which kind of sucks now because they are not very good after they got nerfed. But yeah, so I mean, you potentially start with like anywhere between 4 and 7 soul/corpse tokens that you can pass out to the army to begin with, which is, for obvious reasons, is very powerful. You can. The idea that I had was that you can potentially pass out. You give 1 to Vociferon, 1 each to the 2 Soul Trappers, and then those 2 Soul Trappers first turn just toss 3 souls on Vociferon, and you have like a ready-made 10 focus turn later on in the game when you need it.
Fair enough. Yeah, that's 10 focus turn is pretty big, and being able to have that. I mean, unless you're a Harbinger, but being able to do that much more flexibly outside of feed is pretty good.
Right. Yeah, it seems pretty neat. It's worth a try. I'm definitely gonna give it some testing once I can get a Sepulcher out there. I don't think it really works without Sepulcher though, because you need the extreme recursion.
Well, Sepulcher is going to be interesting for Cryx in general.
I agree.
I think it's going to change some stuff, but we'll see. All right, well, thank you very much. We'll go ahead and end the broadcast, and yeah, have a good day.